We're at the Innovate Finance Global Summit 2017. I'm here with Laven from Currencycloud. If you want to just introduce yourself and tell me a little bit about Currencycloud and what you do for them.
Sure, I'm Mike Laven. I'm the CEO of Currencycloud, a FinTech company based in London. We actually celebrated our 5th anniversary this year, and also celebrated that by raising a new round of funding that was £20 million led by Google, GB Ventures. What we are is we're a cross-border payments firm, but primarily a technology firm. So we provide the technology to make cross-border payments to a whole host of other kinds of firms, payment service providers, marketplaces, small and medium-sized banks, other other foreign exchange firms. So it's a technology platform sold to other payment firms, but of course we're also regulated and we receive the funds and make the payments as well.
As you are a company based in the UK, obviously the political climate at the moment, Brexit, all the uncertainty, is that a fear that you guys are dealing with at the moment, or like just passporting or loss of talent or investment?
So Brexit is a large road bump on the way to the future, but it's not a roadblock.
I like that.
And we will probably have to be regulated somewhere on the continent. We're in the business of being regulated. I mean, we will be regulated in Southeast Asia, we're going to be regulated in all of the US states, we're regulated in Canada, so we understand that. Yeah. There's a set of rules, we comply with the rules, we pay the money, we get regulated. Would we prefer to be doing that rather than something else? The answer is no, but we'll be able to figure it out. So I'm not tremendously concerned on that side. The only part of Brexit that does concern me is the position of EU nationals, not only the ones who work for us now, but the ones we'd like to hire in the future. Yeah. Any kind of technology hub, whether it's FinTech in London or deep technology in San Francisco, has to recruit from a global talent pool. It's not that UK people aren't good enough, but some of the things that we do are so specialized that there aren't that many people anywhere who do them. So how that's dealt with to me is incredibly important. I think the business side it's a problem, but it's a problem that we'll overcome. You
mentioned different cities being known for different, like London being a FinTech centre. Do you think because of Brexit that a new kind of London will appear on the continent? And if so, do you think it will, like, you know, Paris or Berlin or one of those, or do you think that London will always still have that centric pull?
I think the probability of a FinTech hub occurring in some other city within Europe post-Brexit is close to zero. You have to know that there are as many people who work in Canary Wharf in finance as there are in the whole city of Frankfurt.
Oh, wow. Okay.
The depth of what you have in London, both in people who work in finance and the industries that service them, whether it's media companies or technology consultancies, is so great and deep that I don't see a wholesale exodus of people just because it'll allow you to flog things to Germans. I mean, it's a very, very large world. The continent's important. Certainly some businesses that are more directed there will move, but broadly, London is not a European FinTech hub, it's a global FinTech hub.
And the key, just as we were talking about the challenges and kind of roadblocks to the FinTech space and Brexit and Trump, etc., what do you think are the opportunities to come from it?
Right now, I think that one of the major things that's going on in the world is the massive amount of flow of funds and capital and knowledge and expertise that goes back and forth between China particularly, and Europe and America. It's massive flows. It's flows of both Chinese goods being sold in Asia and Europe, sometimes sold as intermediate goods, but sometimes sold directly on e-commerce sites. All those funds need to move back to China. At the same time, you've got Chinese firms. You've recently seen the bid by Ant to buy MoneyGram. Of Chinese firms now trying to acquire other firms, so the Chinese students, Chinese investment. So you've got this massive capital flows moving back and forth to Asia and the US. I think that only becomes more and more important. Europe, of course, is important. It's a very large economy with or without the UK. And working on e-commerce as you get further integration in Europe will be important. There's a lot of other flows that are just as important, and I think those become even more important in a post-Brexit world.
And just lastly, Innovate Finance Global Summit. do you enjoy coming? What do you gain from coming to this? Do you think it's a great event?
Sure. So our firm was IDF a charter member. We were one of the founding members, I think, of Innovate Finance. I think we might even had a different name for it when we started. We went to the early organizational meetings, and I think that the UK FinTech community needs a trade group. And I think Lawrence and the team do a very, very good job of that. As the trade group gets larger and larger, our needs become more diverse and more complex. So one thing about this conference, and that they do it once a year, is it brings together all the people from that large web of not just the startup community, because if we only talk to ourselves, we don't learn anything. Exactly. But from the banks, from government, who are all involved in that, the regulators, and I think that's one of the key parts of this event, as opposed to others. There are startup events where you only get startups. This event gives you a really breadth, and I think that's incredibly important.